Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, YouTube and Instagram. Let's talk about how to hold a man accountable. If this is the first time you've ever been in one of my live streams, my name is Braille. I am the creator of Pedestal Wife Society. I am the one who runs the page. So let's get right on into it. But first of all, let's pause a moment. Let's not move too fast. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping. Let's make sure everyone's in the room. Let's make sure that you can hear me and see me. If someone would do me a huge favor and make sure that you can see me on YouTube also, because I've been having a lot of issues with YouTube. If it isn't lighting, it's audio or picture. So I need to make sure that I am seen and heard on YouTube. So if I could have one of my inner circle members to go over to YouTube and check me out and make sure that you can see me and hear me. And then also help me out a little bit more by announcing it to the group that we are live on YouTube and Instagram today. I know that I told you all that I would be talking about how to get him to love you more or how to recognize that in a man, but I literally just do what's best. I literally do what resonates with me, what really taps into the divine. And I just got this massive urge to talk about how to hold a man accountable today. So I'm going to go with it. I go with the flow. And if that's not something that you like, you're probably not going to like me too much because I'm the most illogical person you're ever going to meet. So hello, hello, hello. Hopefully everyone's having a wonderful day. Thank you, Muta. Thank you so much. I hope I didn't screw up your name, Pedestal Wife. We can see and hear you, yes, because a lot of times I start on YouTube and they say, we can't see you, we can't hear you, we cannot, even the video quality is horrible. So I'm trying to fix it, but just bear with me. I'm not a tech person. Hello, Nappy Susie. Hello, Nia. Hello, ZGCJCG. Girl, change that username. Hello, hello, or good afternoon in your case. Yes, it is afternoon for me. It is like 1:32. It's actually later than what I would normally go live, but I decided, let me go live. Let me go and talk about how to hold being accountable. Let me talk about this because this has been brewing. I've been ruminating over this topic for a long time. And especially when I see so many content creators addressing this topic and talking about how you hold a man accountable. And I feel like they're failing at really getting to the gist, to the nitty gritty of how to hold a man accountable. So I want to talk about how I hold a man accountable. And this is personally me, okay? So first of all, let me go ahead and share my rules. I have my notes here because I had to write them down, or we might be all over the board because y'all know I'm super illogical. I go with the flow. I go where the divine leads me. So I have to start out with giving you my 3 rules of accountability. And these are my 3 rules. Number 1, consequences must fit the action, the choice. Consequences must happen. Number 2, realize when accountability doesn't matter. Stop trying to do everything but leave. Number 3, never say anything that you aren't willing to do. We don't make threats over here, we make promises. Number 4, forgiveness builds trust. Forgive, don't forget, so that you can recognize patterns. These are my 4 rules to accountability. And when I am holding someone accountability or holding that space so that they can be accountable, I keep these rules in mind. And when we're talking about accountability, one of the things I want you to do is start thinking up scenarios that you've come across where you were stumped on how to hold someone accountable, or you didn't know what to do. You were kind of a loss of words, or you just didn't know what to do in that moment when it showed up in your life. So when it comes to being accountable, I truly do believe that since social media is speaking to everybody, you're holding no one accountable. See, the thing is, when you're talking to everybody about accountability, you're holding no one accountable. Accountability is supposed to be the interactions that we have personally with another person, not for the whole wide world or social media. This is the reason why we're holding no one accountable. So let's stick to talking about holding the people in our lives accountable, the men that we date, the men that we marry, the men that we have interactions with. Those are the men that we need to focus in on holding them accountable. So one of the things that I do, and I did personally when I was out here dating, is I was very aware, self-aware, and aware of if a man was not willing to be accountable, if he was willing to blame me for any situation or action, if it was his problem and he would put it on my shoulders. You have to pay attention to when that happens, and then you need to stick to number three. See, a lot of times that we're trying to make someone accountable, but we have approved all of their actions. And what I mean by approved all of their actions, we've made it no big deal, or we have taken the blame when we shouldn't have, or we haven't communicated our expectations. And so you have to go in with the ability to communicate your expectations. You have to go in with the ability of refusing to take accountability or blame for something that is not your fault. Because you have, when I do like one-on-ones, I realized that a lot of women are coming to me with situations where the men are not self-aware and they do not want to they don't want to take accountability for their actions. And so the woman feels some type of responsibility because we have that side of us that's very nurturing and caring, that we want to make it safe and we want to make sure that person is happy. So we tend to take on the blame when we shouldn't be. You should not take the blame for behavior. You should not take the blame when this person is acting a straight fool. You need to refuse to take the blame. And then we need to always refer back to number three, because sometimes we're doing everything but walking away. And that's the reason why number three is that rule in itself, is that you have to learn when it is not a situation of accountability. It's a situation where he doesn't deserve you. It's a situation where you're above him. It's a situation where you need to leave him in the dust. So we have to learn to simplify our lives and make sure that make sure that we only interacting with people who are willing to take accountability for their actions, that they're super self-aware. If they did something to us, that they don't mind taking the blame and apologizing. As soon as you come across a man that the first thing he does, he wants to blame you. He wants to put all the burden of the entire relationship or emotional burden on you. You have to refuse to participate. You have to refuse to take the blame. And if you're in a situation right now where that's happening to you and you've made the mistake, keep the peace, because that's what I hear all the time. Women be like, I want to keep the peace. I don't want that back and forth. I don't like to argue. And I get it, because I don't argue at all. I don't argue at all. That is because I have rules of accountability. When I start seeing that people are not showing up in that manner, and that the personality, the behaviors that they're displaying means that I'm always going to have to take the responsibility, the accountability, the emotional labor for the relationship, I tend to leave them alone. And I think you all have to have that number three rule for you. When you start seeing this person, they're blaming you, everything is your fault. You can't ever do anything right. You can't make a person take accountability in this way. Like, there's nothing you can do to make someone take accountability other than to refuse to take the blame. So if it is his fault, stop sitting back, being pretty, being meek, being quiet, and allowing him to put all of the blame on your shoulders. And then you're confused about, how do I get him to take accountability? You get a man to take accountability by refusing to take the blame. Let's start there first. Because I think we do this as women, as feminine energy beings. We tend to take the blame, to keep the peace, and that is not helping us overall. Because one of the things that men are very single focused. They tend to look at the things that they get away with, and they see it as though we're giving their approval. We're approving their actions, and we haven't said anything about it. We haven't communicated our expectations or needs. So they think it's okay. And you would be surprised how many men and women I've talked to when I'm talking to my friends and they're having these issues. And I'm like, okay, is this something that's been starting since the very beginning of the relationship? Yes. Now, what has changed? She's gotten comfortable. She feels that she has influence enough to be able to speak up now, not realizing that trying to make him accountable now and trying to change. And then a lot of times we don't know the difference between personality and patterns. Like, this man has always been surly. He's always not had integrity. He's always been he always had narcissist tendencies, but we ignored that and don't understand the difference between patterns and personality. And the reason you need to know that difference, because you need to realize, if this is who he is, this is his traits, this is how he shows up in the relationship, there is no accountability for that. Patterns, you need to pay attention. Is he doing this all the time? Is this something he's constantly doing? That's the reason why number four is what? Forgiveness builds trust. Forgive, don't forget. which means you can forgive that person. I've come across a lot of women who are like, I forgive, and then I totally forget. So they forget that last month that he was not showing up on time, he was staying out all night, and they forgave him. Then they move up to the next month, and he's doing the same thing. And they don't recognize the pattern. They don't recognize the behavior. They don't recognize the habits that he has. Pay attention to these things, because these things are something that you can make him accountable for. Like, these are the things you can say, hey, I expect you to be at home for dinner by 7. Like, I like to eat. I really love eating as a family. And be honest about that. Let's not sugarcoat anything. I think with social media and feminine energy, and I talk about feminine energy all the time. I'm an advocate for feminine energy, but I also know when it comes to accountability, we have to pay attention to. We use feminine communication when it adheres to our feelings and emotions, right? But accountability should be direct, focused, and we shouldn't move the goalpost. That is how you handle accountability. That is how you hold a man accountable. And if women in mass movement of women start holding the individual men in their lives accountable, you would see more change than you see today. Because if we're talking to every man, then we're talking to no man. Accountability is based off the personal interactions that you have with people. That's when it's going to be taken seriously. Accountability is taken seriously a lot more when you have a connection, interaction, or some type of bond with that person, that they're going to take it seriously. So this is the reason why I don't like the social media conversation, because you're talking to no one. You're talking to no man. That's the reason why men come on and they're like, oh, I'm not like that. I'm accountable for my actions. I'm a man. They're all like that because you're talking to every man, which means you're talking to no man. But if we in mass, decide to hold the men that are in our lives accountable, if we refuse to take blame when it is his issue, when he is the problem, now we should always be self-aware and make sure that you have a sense of accountability. Remember the internal values that I talked about. You need to be cultivating that yourself so that you're not sitting here throwing the blame on him, which is really your issue. So you need to be super self-aware of that, so that if it is him, if it is his issue, he is to blame, then you need to stop taking the blame. Because there are so many women in relationships currently, right now, in this moment, that I'm probably talking to, where every time you all had a discussion or argument, you took the blame to keep the peace. Instead of saying, you know what? I refuse. I refuse to take the blame for this, because this is not something that I have done. Now, I can always take the blame or take responsibility for my actions, but I will not take responsibility for yours. And that's being very direct, because what you approve in the relationship is what he's going to continue. Everything that you've done up till now, because I know I have women in the comment section, and you're ready to get your scenarios and tell me about accountability, and you want to ask me how to handle that. I want you to think about all the scenarios, all the situations that you've been in with him, where you have refused to take the blame, or you did take the blame, even though it was his fault, or where you did not communicate your expectations. See, the thing is, we have to also get away. If you want accountability, you want true accountability from another person, we have to really be upfront and very direct. Men appreciate directness. I know they tell you not. I know they tell you that's not true. I'm telling you, they do appreciate directness coming from a woman who's been married for 23 years. And I hate to use a marriage up there, because when it comes down to it, I'm more than enough. Okay. I have more than a personal experience beyond just my marriage. That when you are very direct and you lay your expectations out there and you refuse to take the blame, he is more than likely will come with accountability, or he will not. And this is where you have to make the decision. If this man is not going to be accountable, I want you to imagine your life 20 years from now, where you're still in the same situation, the same marriage, and you're trying to get this man to be accountable. You try to get this man to at least say, I'm sorry. Y'all in relationships with me who won't even say, I'm sorry, even though he's to blame. And see, this is the reason why you have to start vetting these men out in the very beginning. We have to let go. I know we're feminine energy beings. I accept that. I am also one. But what I don't accept is that I have to take the blame for him to feel good about himself. That I cannot be direct with him and I can't just put it all out on the table. I can't just say, hey, I expect you to show up at 5 for dinner. I like eating as a family. Hey, I expect you to be on time so we're not late to events. I expect you to be there for me when I need you. And if you can't do that, then we need to rethink this relationship. We need to be very honest with ourselves about the type of men that we're in a relationship with. If you want to hold him accountable, if women truly desire to hold men accountable, start holding the men that you have interaction with accountable. I guarantee you will see more change than if you start keep talking to everybody and everybody treating it all as though it's a monolith and we're all in the same boat, because we are not. Much needed conversation. You're so wise. You're welcome. Thank you. But you have to be willing to communicate. Like, I know in the feminine energy space, they're like, hey, like, think, or not think. The the right word is not think. There's another word I'm thinking of, is I'm just having a quick brain fart. But in the feminine energy space, I've heard women to hint at what they want. And I'm going to tell you, you cannot read your mind. If you want to hold a man accountable, be very direct, lay it all out on the line, tell him what you expect, and then remember, number one, there's always consequences for actions. And rule number 3, we never make threats, we make promises over here, which means never say something that you're not willing to follow through. Stop holding over his head that you're going to divorce him or you're going to leave him or you're going to separate from him. This is not going to help your situation if you're trying to make sure that y'all have true accountability in the relationship. He needs to still be in a space where he feels safe and feel that he can actually come to you with the issue and that you can have conversation and you can communicate with each other. So we do not threaten anything. We only make promises. So if you want to have accountability, you need to absolutely, when it comes out to feminine communication, use that only for your feelings. Use that in a way to speak and communicate your feelings and vulnerability. Do not use that in a way to hold a man accountable. Because I see so many examples where women are saying like, well, I feel upset that you didn't get me the gift that I wanted. Like, that is not going to work, especially if you're trying to hold him accountable. He didn't even get you a gift. He got you nothing for your anniversary. He got you nothing for your birthday. He got you absolutely nothing. This is where you need to be very direct and tell him, I expect, honestly, if I were you and if I was in that situation, which I'm not, and the reason for that is because of the rules that I have for accountability and how I try to vet men out who are not self-aware, who are not accountable. Because do you realize that being accountable is a skill? It is not something that we're born with. You have to practice being accountable. And a lot of people do not have that skill, especially if you were raised within a household where everything was covered for you. Instead of them telling you it's your fault that you got an F, they'll tell you, hey, it's the teacher's fault. The teacher doesn't like you. The teacher doesn't like you. That's why you got an F. Oh, it's your friend's fault because they interrupted you from studying. If you grew up in a household like that, you don't even have the skill of accountability. Accountability should be something you're vetting for if you're out here dating. If you're dating someone currently, you need to be vetting for accountability, because you want someone to be like, oh man, I'm sorry. That was my fault. I shouldn't have said it that way. Or I'm sorry, I hurt your feelings. Or I'm sorry, I didn't, do the things that you expected of me. You expected me to arrive at 5 for dinner, and I just didn't show up. I showed up at 7. And then what do we do after the person does not follow through and they apologize? There's still consequences for your actions. And what I mean by consequences for your actions, you need to be asking straight up, hey, okay, so how do we fix this? And be open to negotiation, be open to fixing it. Don't even try to use this opportunity to get something out of him that you do not want, because if you do that, men will think of it as manipulation. So if he's like, hey, he's open to accountability, he's open to apologizing, then you're going to ask him, how do we fix that? Because then you're going to look for change behavior. That's the only thing you should expect from when you hold a man accountable. You don't want it to be just playing in your face or the words that he used, just apologizing. You want change behavior to follow accountability. And then once you realize, let's say he doesn't. Let's say he says, I'm sorry, I'm going to come and I'm going to be home at 5. You won't see me doing that anymore. I'm going to be arriving on time, babe. And he says that to you, then it is time for you to stop talking and put action behind your words. You need to really analyze and see if maybe this man isn't for you all. Like, I'm not one of those people who want to tell you twice. What did I tell you? Over here, we're all about promises, never threats. Okay, so let's see what everybody's saying. Like, join into the conversation. If there's something you want me to continue with this type of conversations, I need you all to be in here.